Greetings, members, one and all of the Salivation Nation. The Silver Squeeze movement turns 1 year old. They're celebrating their first anniversary. We're going to take a look at the successes and failures of the movement. And we're going to also look at the history of how it started, all the way from a social media posting over on another Reddit community that is spurred from another revolutionary movement. So let's talk about it and explore. Now, I'm sure there's going to be some things that I miss, some details, but I thought it was quite fascinating to see this movement sprout out after we saw a lot of activity with short squeezing the stock market, especially with what some fund managers and the like have done with some of these stocks that people showed not much love for. And mainly, some of the stocks that we're talking about are companies that were pretty much on their way out, such as GameStop and AMC. Well, it turns out that with a ease of trading with an app called Robinhood and with social media platforms like Reddit, well, it looks like people were getting together and fighting back, and with the power of individuals coming together with one cause, and that is to squeeze the shorts in the stock market. And that is exactly what they did with GameStop and AMC over at the Wall Street Bets Forum and over on Reddit. This was a movement that was starting to pick up the pace towards the end of 2020 and into 2021 in January, and making quite dramatic moves in these stocks. And that had attracted a lot of people to talk about this and get in on the action. People made big bucks and in a hurry when so many people were putting their money towards these stocks. And you saw other folks join into the community wanting to get a part of the action and suggesting other stocks to put their money into to try to squeeze them out too. It made a lot of people nervous when we saw the average Joe going in and making purchases of these stocks using the Robinhood app. It got so bad that Robinhood essentially stopped some of the trades. And so people were starting to shift some of their focus in the Wall Street Bets community. And some had suggested that they do the same thing with silver. Many people think that silver's price is suppressed, and it has been talked about there. And that started to pick up a lot of steam over at Wall Street Bets. But then there were others that were going against it, say that you're splitting up the purpose of what we're here to do. And so therefore, some felt like they were ostracized over in that community. But nonetheless, there was a large enough movement that around this time, and at the time that this video is posted, silver spot prices started to go up dramatically, like $1 a day for 3 days in a row, essentially, as people were buying up the SLV, the iShares Trust, and causing the prices to go up. It's pretty amazing to see that action, and others were debating whether they should do that or buy other representations or ETFs of silver, mainly ones that are backed by the physical and by the physical itself. So essentially, because of the divide over there, and some of them felt ostracized and even booted from that platform, they started their own movement, and it's called Wall Street Silver. And that forum over on Reddit was created on the 29th of January, 2021, and it grew like crazy. And it was started on the preposition that they are a community that loves silver, period. And there's a lot of different minds and different philosophies there, but essentially it drove people to buy. And essentially what happened was, as they were buying on the ETF and the paper, they were also buying like crazy in the physical markets, essentially creating a squeeze. The squeeze worked, but where was its success? Its success essentially most of its success was not only for those few days to a week, driving the price of silver up to almost $30 an ounce for a temporary amount of time. The bigger thing that it created was an already stressed silver market, and the demand for silver had been rising and had been up since March of 2020, and even some before then, with the pandemic occurring and supply chain issues at hand. So essentially what it did is it created a bottleneck in getting silver orders out in the physical form, which comes in a form of bars, rounds, and coins. And it was bullion dealers were closing down. And in fact, I remember, and actually I reminisced a bit with another member of this community, Silver Heist, about what had occurred. But bullion dealers were closed down on the weekend, and it was on a Sunday night. And we watched it live as the markets opened up and noticed that all these bullion dealers were closed down, preventing people from buying precious metals because they had run out. And essentially it created this squeeze on the bullion dealers and a great amount of orders that were being placed. Essentially, the squeeze had a medium term effect or even long-term effect of essentially enriching the bullion dealers. Now, some people may see that as a negative connotation, and I'm not necessarily saying that's a bad thing, but it did increase premiums, and and to those premiums rising up, some of that is still in effect even today, 1 year later. Silver products, especially the American Silver Eagle, they have exploded in price. The premium skyrocketing on these coins especially, and even to this day, it is very difficult to find Silver Eagles for what most of us would consider reasonable premiums. So in that effect, it has created a physical squeeze on the market, and some of that is extending to some point today, although obviously it's assisted as well by the supply chain issues that we have seen, not only among silver, but among other commodities and items that we have been witnessing because of the various different variants of the pandemic, and inflation is also causing issues and problems with premiums as well. But nonetheless, sadly, the price of silver did not stay up for very long after this started. And there were probably a lot of folks, well, undoubtedly a lot of folks that were very frustrated when the price of silver got smacked right back down. In fact, as of the recording of this video, a year later, the price is down dramatically with another couple of days of smackdowns, causing a lot of frustration, I'm sure, by many out there. So people are wondering, well, why did the silver squeeze movement fail in terms of squeezing out the big banks like JP Morgan and those entities who many feel are suppressing the price of silver? Well, because it's a very complex market. And this Wall Street silver and the silver squeeze movement in general had created a lot of interest in silver, and a lot of new folks that were essentially wet behind the ears and really didn't understand that even though the silver market is tiny compared to gold and other commodities, it is a very tiny market. It is much larger, much, much larger than a stock like GameStop or AMC, which essentially is just the shares of a company that's essentially on its way out. It had no choice but to skyrocket and go up. There's no way, there's not enough physical bullion in the world really to create a sustained increase in price to make it skyrocket above what they were hoping it would be. I'm talking to the tunes of $100 an ounce, triple digits, or some even said $1,000 an ounce. It just would not happen given the way that the market is. So I think a lot of people had a rude awakening with the silver squeeze movement as it had progressed throughout the year. And here we are 1 year later, and there are some naysayers who say, well, the silver squeeze movement is dead. I would disagree with them as well. And it's not that I'm trying to ride the fence on this, because I really do feel like the overall message of what silver stacking is all about is some way missed by both camps, those who are against the silver squeeze and those who are for the silver squeeze. And I believe it's all about being realistic about what silver is and what it does, and also what it does not. But nonetheless, when you have people who have been essentially read things or hear things in videos such as this that say silver is headed for the moon, it's any day right now where it's going to just skyrocket in price, and they're banking placing all of their bets, all of their Wall Street bets, pun intended, on some notion that silver is going to skyrocket because we are going to make it happen, because we're going to send the message to the banksters, to the government, and what have you. Under that auspices, under that motivation, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. Because in reality, I believe there's a more realistic and much more satisfying approach to stacking silver. And that is this love of silver. And by the way, when I say a love of silver, I'm referring to the actual motto of the Wall Street silver community. It is, we are a community that loves silver, period. They don't worship it. They don't put it above God, people, or family. It's about understanding what the metal is about, loving it unconditionally, no matter what the price is. It's about the value of this lovely metal. It has physical properties that are unchanging. And in a sense, when you come to understand a paradigm shift of thinking, it has a value that is unchanging. Humans get involved in trying to manipulate, and it does happen. One of the criticisms that people have of me is that I tend to balk at, quote, manipulation. But it's not manipulation I'm balking at. It's essentially suppression. I think the market is way too complex to suppress the price of silver as well as try to manipulate it to the upside, which is what the Wall Street, which is what the silver squeeze movement attempted to do, like GameStop. GameStop was a manipulation to the upside. It was an attempted manipulation by the people to the upside. And you realize that with silver, you just can't do that. It just is not going to happen. But what I believe the motivation for buying silver is for the long haul. It's about buying it with the understanding that it is something that will preserve your wealth, at least in some sense, over a course of a period of time. And that period of time to where it shows its wealth preservation, the entity is how you buy it. And you buy it, what I refer to as intelligent dollar cost averaging. You buy it for the pure motivation as a savings account, as an insurance policy against economic instability. So when you make a purchase of a silver coin or round or bar, you're buying it for the motivation of essentially preserving the wealth that you have. Because one thing we do know, that as of the recording of this video, inflation is high. It is over 7%, 7% year over year, as of the latest statistics for the Consumer Price Index. And so therefore, when you buy silver, well, if you bought silver a year ago, and you bought all of your silver 1 year ago, and you go to cash it out now, you have got yourself a losing proposition. Think about it. Silver at $30 an ounce, and if all of this silver was bought at one time, 1 year ago, when it was nearing $30 an ounce, and I was to go to sell this silver today with 7% inflation, with silver sitting under $23 an ounce right now, it would be a losing proposition. I would not only be not preserving my wealth, I would be losing nominal dollars on it. But buying all this silver at once, when the price is rising, is a fool's errand, because you do not buy silver that way. You buy silver utilizing what's known as dollar cost averaging. And I'm not just talking about brainless dollar cost averaging, buying a set amount each month based off of your budget, although that would be better certainly than just buying it all at once when the price is high. I'm talking about smart dollar cost averaging, waiting for those dips and buying a little bit more when those dips come into play. Kind of like what we saw the last couple of days here. This is probably a good time to buy. When the price rises up, as it did a year ago, in 3 days with $1 a day, each day for 3 days in a row, well, you'd be probably better positioned to wait until that massive spike stops and starts on its way down, and then buy a little bit less. You have to watch the markets. You have to look out for the deals. and find the lowest premium above spot with the most recognizable liquid silver out there. I think that is some of the lessons that maybe have been lost with some in that community. But nonetheless, the silver squeeze movement is about, I believe, and what it should be about is about bringing new folks into the fold with a realistic vision of what silver is and what it does. I believe that is what the silver squeeze movement should be, because it's about squeezing out bad money and widening up and expanding your sound money, which would be silver. And I know there's some that don't believe that silver is money, but I believe it is hibernating money. Even though it is not used as a currency, it certainly does have value, and it is recognized and has been for thousands of years as a money that is fungible, has a store of value, and it is a unit of account. And I believe that's what silver does hold. And so therefore, I believe it is incumbent upon us, as we mature past 1 year now for the silver squeeze movement, to reinvigorate the movement under the banner of holding it, stacking it, based off of our financial responsibility, with the fortitude of being fiscally responsible and buying, not necessarily when others, including bullion dealers and including our peers, tell us to buy, but to buy it based off of our budgets and based off of our understanding of spot price and the movement of the market's price of silver. So there you have it. That's my synopsis. I'm sure I probably left some things out, but I wanted to kind of celebrate and recognize the silver squeeze movement for what it is. I know I'll probably get some folks that disagree with me, but that's okay. That's part of what this is about. And again, I want to celebrate the Wall Street silver community, who has now 178,000 people or users, or what are known as silverbacks. And it seems to be going strong. And there's a lot of different viewpoints there. It is not a monolithic community, and I think that's great that they allow different viewpoints on silver. There's those of us who have been stacking silver for a long time. I'm talking 30 years plus, who have some understanding of it. And I think it is good to get all different viewpoints on this metal from a variety of different sources. I love silver, and I appreciate it for what it is. And so there you have it. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. We'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude to you all for taking the time to watch, and to encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and stack on.